We appreciate being invited, and this is what we call the City Focus Meeting, where we travel around the city once a quarter. Obviously, we do it in tandem with a neighborhood association, but others from the community are also invited. We've got a few more people coming in, so we'll wait until there's a bunch of seats up front. Hi. And I might just mention that the normal order of things for us is I'll introduce a staff person. They'll have 3-5 minutes of comments. You're welcome to ask any questions. And we do kind of a round-robin approach where we try to basically share current information from a variety of departmental points of view. So, again, we appreciate being here, and I think what we'll start with this evening is Vince Osier. Vince is our Human Resource Director for the city, and he'll bring us up to date on current hiring and other activities.
Thanks, Mayor. As the Mayor said, my name is Vince Osier. I'm the Director of Human Resources with the city. And we've had a lot of activity going on this year, and right here at the end of the year, we're going to have even more activity going on. As we've got the Civil Service Board will be conducting a civil service exam for police officer on December 20th of this year. And then shortly after the first of the year, we're going to have a civil service exam for firefighter. The date has not been firmed up yet, but I expect that to occur either on the 10th or 17th of January. And then there will also be a construction and maintenance 1 exam on either the 10th or 17th of January. That's when we expect that. Again, the board hasn't firmed that date up yet. We try to post those notices on the city's website within a couple of days after we get them. The police officer notice should have went up today. And then once we get the notices for firefighter and construction and maintenance 1 worker, we'll get those on the city's website as well. We also have a part-time position for parking enforcement officer. That test is going to occur on December 6th. And the deadline, I think, for signing up for that is fast approaching. So if you know someone that's interested in that, you want to make sure that they move forward with that quickly. But those are the things that we have happening. We also have a budget and investment analyst position that the board will not test for, but it's a what we call a non-competitive exam, which interested candidates can submit their resumes for that. The deadline for that, I want to say, is like the 21st of November, which is coming up fairly quickly, actually tomorrow. So anyway, if people are interested in that, they can just submit their resume for that position. So I think that's basically all I've got. Thanks, Mayor.
Any questions? I would want to emphasize with the police and fire tests and positions, you do not have to have prior training. So essentially, the city will, if an individual is selected that is not previously trained, the city provides that training. We send folks to the police academy or to the fire academy. So in effect, it's a scholarship-based position. So we want to make sure that folks are aware of it and take the test. If you don't take the test, we can't consider somebody's application. So we look forward to that here in the next, as Vince said, the next 2 months. A number of opportunities, and we want to share that information as broadly as possible. Any questions?
You said this information is listed on the website. Is that the only place you can get it at? Is there any flyers, any pamphlets or anything about the position? Get more information about it?
Any announcement for civil service exam will appear in the Sunday edition of the Lima News, typically at least 2 weeks before the exam occurs. The other thing that you can do is you can contact our office, give us your mailing address, and we will attempt to mail out that announcement to you. So there's multiple ways to get the information. So anyway, but we just encourage people to sign up, check the website. The good thing about the website is I think you can put your cell phone number in there, and then once the announcement is posted, you can get a notification quickly that that has occurred. So it's a kind of a modern thing that we do. Yes, ma'am.
What's the age limit?
For police officer?
And firefighter, how
Police officers 21 to 35, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief. 21 to 35. Firefighter, Chief, 18 to 35. Thank you, because that number has been bouncing around a lot. And the reason for 21 for police officer, and Chief Martin can answer this better than I could, but basically you've got to be 21 years of age to carry a weapon, and that's why the minimum requirement of 21 for a police officer. So,
and 35 is the limit.
right, age-wise, that's right.
So if you're over 35, it's like you have a dad.
It's well, we don't think of it that way, but generally speaking, to reach full retirement in police or fire is a 25-year commitment, and ideally, people that if you start at 35, you're going to be 60 before you get to 25. Yeah. So basically, what you said. No.
I really think from the point of view of the public, I'm not sure you'd want a 60-year-old man or a woman pulling you out of a burning building.
Yeah.
It really, at some point, the likelihood of the physical ability of an older person like myself begins to decline. So that's really what sets that upper limit on the age. Okay? All right, thank you very much. And along those lines, I'll ask Chief Hefner to come up, and he can fill us in some more on what's happening in the fire department.
Thank you, Mayor. First, let me get on my fire prevention soapbox, because it's that time of the year. We're in the time of the year when we see increased incidences of fire. And if you saw the paper, there was a gentleman from Bluffton was burnt yesterday evening, fire in his house. And that's one of the things that we see at this time of year. Decorations, heating, heating. This gentleman happened to, a candle got near some curtains or something, caught the house on fire. He was severely burned. He had smoke detectors in his home, but guess what? The smoke detectors didn't work. So here, that's my reminder to everyone. Make sure you have working smoke detectors. Be very careful around Christmas. Candles, particularly with the Christmas tree, with your heating.
Thanks again.
If you have a kerosene heater, electric heater, keep them away from anything that burns, because we'd love to come see you, but we don't want to come see you on business. We'd rather come you offering us cookies or something. That's kind of what we do. So there's my speech on fire prevention. This time of year, I brought some other things too, but let me also, well, matter of fact, I've got a couple of things here. Since it's not quite Christmas time, we're still looking forward to Thanksgiving. Occasionally we get questions about deep fried turkeys, and I don't know why. Deep fried turkeys are just so wonderful. If you choose to do that, first of all, thaw the turkey. I'll give you a couple of hints. Thaw the turkey. Don't overfill your fryer. Keep your fryer outside. That's all you need to know. Oh, well, this too. Sam's Club sells deep fried turkeys. You can just buy them. Don't have to worry about all the mess. You just go buy it, and they're very good. So I think you might find that works out pretty well. But to that end, as far as the fire prevention side, here's something I wanted to tell people about. I'm pretty proud of. The Lima, somebody's got a better ringtone than I do. The Lima Fire Department is partnered with the American Red Cross for a program, and it's called Home Preparation Campaign, or Home Preparedness Campaign. And the goal of this through the Red Cross was to reduce fire injuries and fatalities by 25% nationwide in the next 5 years. And to do that, what we've decided to do is target high-risk areas. And bad news is we have 3 zip codes in Lima considered high-risk areas: 45801, 804, and 805. Bad news for everybody is 45804 was considered the highest risk area in northwest Ohio as far as incidents of fires. So what the Red Cross has done is they've got a team of volunteers who are working with our fire prevention officers. We're going door to door, canvassing these areas, these 3 zip code areas, just knocking on doors, offering education to the residents, tell them how to put together and assist them in putting together an escape plan, provide them with smoke detectors, and if needed, we'll install the smoke detectors. The goal is to install 500 smoke detectors by the end of December. First day out, I think we installed 30 smoke detectors. Again, going door to door, educating people, giving them a quick walk through the house, showing them where they could be safe and maybe protect themselves, and install smoke detectors. So I think this is going to be a good program. It dovetails with a program that we had at the fire department for many, many years, where we sent seniors out. We had a team of seniors go out and do the almost identical program. We're trying to implement that again, but we had a problem with Experience Works getting the right people to do this. So it's a program that we're going to continue even after the Red Cross pulls out in December, but we just need to find the right people. But it's going to do a good thing for, and I think 45804. This is this zip code also. It's a good portion of the city. So you'll be seeing these people coming along. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks come banging on your door and asking, here, do you need smoke detectors? How can we help? Essentially, how can we help you help yourselves and protect yourselves? It's a good program with the Red Cross, and anybody ever sees Dave Collins, thank him for it, because he had to go out and got a grant to do this, provide the smoke detectors. All done at no cost to protect the citizens. In a fire department, that's big for us. Fire prevention is just a much better way to go. It's easier to stop a fire than to put out a fire. So, and it's also better for the families. There's fewer tears involved. So really, that's all I want to talk about, some of that outreach program that we're looking at. One more thing, if you go out the front when you leave, we bought a new fire prevention van recently, and we decked this thing out. It's got fire prevention messages all over it. It's colorful. The back says, working smoke detectors save lives. Our old line used to be, smoke detectors save lives. Well, then we found out, not everybody has a working smoke detector. So now the new line is, working smoke detectors save lives. We've got that and a bunch of other fire prevention messages on the site. It's just a big billboard that drives through town. Take a look at it when you leave. It's pretty neat. We're pretty proud of it. So I'll answer any questions if you have any here. Fire prevention, operation, any questions you might have. Couple ways. You can wait for that to happen. If you have a need, if you have any questions, concerns, or needs, call the Fire Prevention Office at the Lima Fire Department. I'll give you the phone number, 419-221-5150, or look online or check the phone book. It's in the phone book. And we'll send somebody out. Again, we can provide it if you need one, and we'll even send somebody out to put it up for you. I mean, we think there's such good things, and everybody should have one. Here, we'll provide the manpower, and we'll actually make the purchase for you and get them out there for you. I saw a hand.
You know those strips with the, that you plug?
Sure.
How many should be in there? What's the hazardous?
It depends what you're plugging into it. You wouldn't want to plug any heating devices in there.
Like a fireplace?
No, I wouldn't plug any of those in there. Those should have a dedicated. Well, actually, you shouldn't be. Fire prevention guys say do not use extension cords for those. Plug those directly into the wall. But for lighting devices, for Christmas, for outlets, for lights, you can plug quite a few in there. Most of those they have a safety in there, or a little relay, or a fuse in there. They'll blow if you plug too much in. Lighting, there's not a problem. But essentially, don't plug anything that draws a lot like a heating device.
What about like TV cables, the box, the DVD?
They don't draw very much. You could fill all. There's usually 6 or 8 outlets in there. You could fill those out. Matter of fact, at my house, that's what I use, and I've got all those plugged in. They don't draw very much. You're safe there. So anybody else have any questions? Was that just a wave because you're friendly? There's a seat up here. Well, anyway, thank you very much. Have a safe holiday, and if you need anything, call the fire department. Secretary will put you through to anybody you need, and we'll take care of your problems to the best of our ability. So thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Chief. And Chief Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. And as Chief Hefner finished with, wishing everyone a happy holiday season, I'd like to start out by just reminding people that this is a time of year when what should be happy holidays can become tragic situations. First of all, if you're going to office parties or family gatherings or that, and you see somebody having too much to drink, please take the keys away from them. Don't let them drive out of there so that something bad could happen. Additionally, this time of year, we see an uptick in larcenies, throughout the area. And a lot of that is due to people shopping when they get their presents. Say they go to the Lima Mall, they put presents in their car, and then they drive to Walmart. They go in to do some shopping at Walmart, and they've left their presents in their car. Somebody will break into the car and steal them. So a couple of quick tips on that. Please, whatever you do, use the locks on your car. Lock your car when you get out of it. And then in addition to that, if you have any presents or any items of value that you're not taking out of the car with you, and if you don't have a trunk to lock them in, then put them someplace like down on the floorboards and cover them up as best you can. Conceal them, hide them, so that it'll be less attractive to a would-be thief. And then also along that same line with crime prevention, I want to remind people that we do have our Crime Prevention Bureau that is staffed by 2 crime prevention specialists that will come out and do home security surveys. They will do business surveys. And also, if you wanted them to come to your neighborhood association, they will come out and give presentations on crime prevention. You can make it specific to the holidays, or if you want it to be something that is just applicable all year round. Again, they've got different presentations that they can offer. Our Human Resource Director talked about the police exam that's going to be coming up. We will be hiring a total of, a minimum, I should say, of 3 people off that list for police officer. And we're hoping that it will be 4. We have a position that was budgeted in this year's budget that is currently unfilled. Assuming that gets approved by council in next year's budget as well, that will actually be a 4th position in addition to the 3 that we have secured through the latest round of COPS hiring grant funding. So if you know anybody at all that is interested in taking the police exam, please encourage them to do that. The filing deadline is December 12th, but you can get the application offline, download it, and get it filled out, turn it into the Civil Service Board by December 12th, and then take the test on December 20th. We are an equal opportunity employer, and in fact, I believe that we need to have a more diverse workforce. It is an issue that relates directly to the public trust, and we need qualified minority applicants before we can hire them. They've got to participate in the process. So again, if you know of anybody that may be interested, please encourage them to take the test. We do have our renovations completed, with the exception of, at the police department, with the exception of the new generator that is being installed that will provide the electric backup that we need for our entire building. That's still being installed out in the parking lot. But the new ID Bureau and the new property room have both been completed, and that is going to help us. Again, we've been able to expand the use of technology in terms of processing fingerprints from crime scenes because we now have space to set the equipment up. We're looking at other types of technology that we may start being able to start taking advantage of that we have the room now, such as touch DNA, where we could process it hopefully within our own department rather than having to take it to one of the state crime labs, because although the state crime labs are very, very good about working with us, they just have such a backlog because they are getting evidence from all over the state of Ohio, from all 88 counties. And so the turnover time is sometimes much longer than people would care for, especially if it's something that, somebody should be charged and taken to trial, but we have to wait until we get the evidence processed before we can do that, because again, they're guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States certain timelines once they've been charged with a crime. So, if we cannot meet that, then oftentimes people get frustrated and they say, hey, I'm a victim here. Why don't you have this person in custody? And it's oftentimes because we're waiting on evidence to be processed and come back to us. As far as the property room, that's going to help us a lot, because just a few years ago, the state law regarding evidence retention changed, and we needed more space. This allows us to have the space that we need to be able to maintain compliance with the new evidence retention laws. And lastly, I just want to talk about whether or not the things that we're doing is working. There's been some talk in the media recently about pinpoint policing, and in fact, even at one point, whether there was some discussion about whether we have too many cops in town, that sort of thing. And I'm just here to tell you that I believe what we're doing is working. Now, I was only able to run the numbers through the end of August, because in September we switched to some new software, records management software, and we have not got all of the bugs worked out for that yet. So I cannot tell you what the September and October numbers are. although anecdotally it does not seem that we've seen any significant increases anywhere. So I'm guessing it's probably following the same trend. But for the first 8 months of 2014 compared to the first 8 months of 2013, we have seen a reduction of 11.6% in our UCR Part 1 crimes. And what that really amounts to in terms of actual numbers is 2,423 UCR Part 1 crimes were committed during those first 8 months last year, with only 2,013 being committed in that same time period this year. That is continuing the trend that we have seen since 2008. And it's a trend that we want to continue to have go down. And I would just ask that each and every person in this room continue to contribute to this effort by, when you see something, if it looks out of place, if it looks suspicious, call us. I've said this many, many times over, and I don't think I can say it enough. We would rather come out on something that turns out to be nothing than to not be called when there's something going on. And as a street officer, I can remember many times taking burglary reports, especially where, as I'm talking to the victim, their neighbor would come over, say, "Hey, what happened?" The victim says, "My house got broke into," and the neighbor says, "Geez, Bob, I saw somebody hanging out here, looked suspicious. I just didn't want to bother the police." Well, you pay us to be bothered, so don't worry about that. Call us if you see something. And we are your servants. We're here for you. So, but we need you to work with us by letting us know when things are going on. I can either answer questions now, or if anybody has anything that they'd like to talk to me about afterwards, I will be sticking around and we'll spend as much time as I need to. All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
I want to know, like, okay, what you said as far as crimes and all that, which is a good thing. But what do you do, like, because you have a few cops that will, when you're driving and you, in certain areas, it's like they'll get up on you and follow you and do things to try to make you, like, nervous. Not saying all of them do that, but they, like, as if they pick with you, like, for you to mess up or something. Because I had one that stopped me, and he said that he had got a call that my car was on another street when actually he was sitting across from me, and he saw I pulled off, and he was like coming up behind me, like scaring me in a way. And it was like nighttime, and it's kind of scary. You don't want to go to jail.
Sure, I understand that. And I will just let you know, when I'm in another city, if I'm on vacation or something and I'm driving and all of a sudden I notice the red and blues behind me, I get nervous too. So, I mean, I understand that.
And they don't hit the light on. It's like they don't hit the light. They just get behind you.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, when I just see that there's a police car behind me, with the light bar and everything, because the light bar is always the first giveaway. and when I see that, I get nervous too. So, again, I really do understand what you're saying. The officer should not be tailgating you or doing things to try to intimidate you. But now, like in the case that you just mentioned, you said the officer said he got a report of you being over on another street.
The car was over on this street, and he said that my car looked like it, but the officer where I was at, I was across the street, and he was across the street. So he know that my car wasn't the car, because the car was supposed to be still sitting there.
Yeah, I guess the only thing.
I want to see your license. He just talked to me, and I'm like, why did we even go through this?
Well, and again, it may have been the kind of thing, like, for instance, where there may have been a time delay from the time that the call was put out before he saw where you were leaving from. So, I mean, there may have been a reason there. And I guess what I will say on that is that's one of those where if you ever have questions about anything like that, what I would ask that you do first and foremost would be to call into our police department. Call the 419-227-4444 number. Ask to speak to the on-duty supervisor. And let them know what your concerns are. And they can look into that and get back to you right away as to whether there was validity to the concern, or it may have been that the officer was acting properly, but you just weren't given the full facts of the of what he was working off of. If, after you've talked to the supervisor, if you do not feel that you've gotten satisfactory answers from the supervisor, then you can feel free to call me also. And again, and I will make sure that's looked into properly, find out what happened, and I will get back with you and let you know what was done, why, and truthfully, if it's the type of situation where it results in discipline, we have a contract that says I can't talk about the specifics of that discipline with you, but I can at least let you know that, hey, we found a problem and we're addressing it. Okay?
Okay, well, Chief Martin, I got something to say. Well, I know it's been about a month daughter, I think she talked to you, she said, incident with her son. He was coming off Atlantic Street, crossing over Kitty Street to go on Atlantic. He lives on that Donald. He was leaving his girlfriend's house, and he heard a car pull up behind him and heard well, he didn't know it was officers at the time, but somebody jumped out the car and grabbed him, put him on the ground and straddled him, and he said, "What are you holding me for?" And which I'm glad that night he didn't resist because he didn't know who had him. And he was like, what have I done? And they said, "Well, you're walking in the street." Well, my God, you gotta walk in the street to cross over from Atlantic to Kibby. And so they frisked him and everything and told him, you know, that he could be detained if they didn't search him. Well, they searched him, he didn't have anything on him, whatever. And, well, somebody called us and said, "You need to go over there because the police got your grandson in the street and he's screaming, don't know what they're doing to him." So I sent somebody, matter of fact, called my sister to go over there and see what's going on. But by the time she gets there, they had let him go. But my daughter, somebody called her at work, so she called from her job to your office. Y'all never got a report of that. Somebody on the line told her, "Well, no, he wasn't arrested or stopped tonight." So every time you stop somebody on the street or you frisk them down or whatever, doesn't that supposed to come into the office?
Well, it doesn't necessarily come into my office, but they should be doing what we call
Yeah,
field
they should
contact
radio
on it.
in and let 'em know.
Yeah.
And then in the end, what they said, it was because the area he was in was a high crime area. It could have been, but still yet, what if he had acted up or something and resist and they beat him to death and let him lay on the street? Your office didn't know that he was they even arrested him that night.
Yeah, and I will let you know that, first of all, no, she did not talk to me. She may have talked to perhaps Major Baker or one of the other division majors or a supervisor.
12:30 at night.
Yeah, and so, and again,
Called me all panicky, you know, "Go check on Felix, go check on him." And so she said, "Well, I just called the police department and nobody never radioed in that they even stopped him."
well, and again, if she will call me so I can get some more specific information from her to be able to look into this, again, I'll look into it and find out what happened. I can tell you another thing that I have found has happened sometimes too, that especially since we have dark blue cruisers, Sheriff's Department has black cruisers, we have had situations where somebody would call me and I can't find where we had the person stopped, and then I check with the Sheriff's Department, find out actually it was the Sheriff's Department that made the stop, and they do have jurisdiction within the city.
All he said, "It was the police and they just
yeah.
jumped out on me," and, you know. And
Yeah, but
so
I will.
didn't jump, you know.
I will find out if she will give me a call so I can get more specific information. I will look into it, find out what happened, and she will get
I
a
got a
response.
call from somebody on the street said, "I don't know what's going on, but he's in the middle of the street and he's screaming, 'I ain't doing nothing, I'm just walking home.'" But then when it was all over, after my brother and my sister got there, they said, "Well, what it was is because the area where he was at, a lot goes on in the area.
Yeah.
But around
Yeah.
the corner from his house.
Well, and the
Drive.
way that our pinpoint policing works, and we do share this information with the Sheriff's Department as well, but the way our pinpoint policing works is where we are having the highest concentration of crimes occurring, that is where we try to put the majority of our resources. Because again, to kind of dovetail from something that Chief Hefner said about fires, that it's better to prevent them. Same thing with crime. It's better to prevent crime than to solve them after they've occurred.
Right,
So
what
that's why we try to
you're
put our resources there. And again, the officers do look for what we call quality of life violations, which may be things like walking in the street or stop sign, loud music, those types of things. And I should mention one of the things, when we've done surveys throughout the city in different areas, every time we've done surveys asking what the residents feel are the biggest crime issues, we don't normally get, "Oh, we got drug dealing on the corner." We usually get things like the walking in the street, the loud music, stop signs, speedings, those types of things.
But if
but-
you're on one side of the street, you gotta cross the street to get on the other side.
Yeah.
That's not walking
Well,
on the street.
and again, I can't speak to that specific situation until I have a chance to look into it. And sometimes it may be that the officer perceived that the person had been walking in the
Well,
street
he
farther than
said
that.
it's a
It's,
suspicious area.
yeah.
You know, he told us in the end, but my God, so anybody that be in that area, you're you're suspicious because you're in that area?
No, but again, oftentimes, again, unfortunately, the people who are carrying drugs and guns on them don't walk around with a big sign or a name tag saying, I'm a dope dealer, I've got a gun on me. So what we have to do, we will use those quality of life violation stops. And then through good police work, oftentimes you're able to find out that the person has drugs on them or has a gun on them, an illegal gun on them, that type of thing. And so that we can get that off the street before it hurts other people. Also, at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, that kind of thing, if it's an area we've had a high rate of burglaries in, if we can stop somebody for walking in the street, again, it has to be a legal stop. But if we can legally stop them from walking the street, we may find on them the burglary tools that they're going to use to break into houses or garages or whatever. So again, that's how our pinpoint policing actually works. Again, if she'll call me though, I will look into the specifics of it and we'll get back with her and let her know what I find out.
She wrote it down whoever she talked to.
Okay.
Because she was really upset, about it. Because the only thing we could think of was, what if somebody jumps out on you and grabs you and you don't know who grabbed you, and what if you do this here?
Oh, sure. Sure, I understand.
They would have whooped him or what would have happened,
Yeah.
But just a good thing, he couldn't get a loose, they had him.
Yeah.
That's it. Please make sure she gets a hold of the chief.
Okay.
All right?
Can I ask a question concerning sheriff and the Lima Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you all know what's going on together as one? I mean, is there certain type of incidents that you both would know about it, or is it just the Lima police may know and then the sheriff don't know?
Well, I will say, like, for instance, I don't know every traffic stop that occurs by the sheriff's department unless I call them and ask them for specific information. But if, for instance, if there is say a homicide or a drug raid, that type of more serious type of incident, we're both aware of what's going on. So, and we do get together and communicate on a very regular basis to make sure that we make the sheriff's department aware of our high crime areas and those types of things too, because they've been very good about cooperating with us and helping us to try to prevent crimes in those areas.
But how do you determine a high crime area?
By the number of crimes being reported by the people living in that area or visiting or working in the area. All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much.
And the Public Works Director, Howard Elstro, is up next. Howard.
Need some traffic control back there, Chief. Well, thanks for welcoming us to your meeting tonight. We in the Public Works are wrapping up all of last year's projects, so it's a pretty busy time for us in the office. But we also have been planning ahead for not only 2015, but 2016 and 2017. And I'm not going to go into all the projects that we have on the planning table, but I'll talk about one. And the one that we have next year, which is going to be our largest program, our largest project, will be the reconstruction of Kibbe Street from Pine to Bell Fountain. This is a significant corridor into our city, and we have been focusing on the corridors throughout the city, the entryways to our cities now for the last 20 years at least. This project is going to be a total reconstruction. That means we're going to remove the asphalt, the base, rebuild the base. We're going to put in drainage and under drains. It will have new curbs, gutters. It will have nice 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of the streets for the whole duration. We will plant trees at the completion of the project. This is about a $2.3 million project. Projects that size take a lot of planning, typically at least 5. This project has probably been in the queue for even more than 5 years. We've assembled federal funds of about $1.2 million. About $250,000 is coming from our own stormwater funds. About $300,000 of permissive that is locally controlled by the City of Lima. And then we asked for and got a grant from the State Issue 1 infrastructure funds for about $456,000. The project will begin in April, and that entire stretch of Kibbe Street will be under construction and will not be complete until November. We are going to do it in 2 phases. So the first phase will be the westerly-most phase. It'll be from Pine Street up to the tracks. And then once they get done with that, then they'll do the other side of the tracks out to Bellefontaine Avenue. So it will be 2 phases. So during that time, if you're used to using Kibbe Street, you won't be able to. You're going to have to use 4th Street or Bellefontaine Avenue to the north. But for property owners, if any property owners are here tonight, the contractor will make sure that you can get in and out of your driveway during construction. You may have to go across gravel for a while. Those people will also have to put up with construction this winter. We just got notified by Dominion that they are going to be replacing the gas lines, and there is a gas line on both sides of the street. There is a high pressure as well as a low pressure or medium pressure line, and one is going on one side of the street and the other is on the other side. So the sidewalks will be tore up throughout the winter time here. But when we're complete, we know it's going to be a very, very nice project. Anybody that uses that stretch of road knows that in the springtime and the fall, sidewalks are actually underwater at certain points of Kibbe Street. So by actually doing the whole reconstruction, we are able to lower the profile of the street, and the sidewalks will, in the end, be higher than the streets, and we will have good drainage throughout the whole stretch. So project I think we're going to be very, very proud of when it's complete. So,
But it's going to be painful.
as they all are.
I mean, anytime we undertake this kind of a project, it's a huge nuisance to everybody that lives there, that tries to traverse, and that's just something that, you know, I think if you think about Brower Road, and we did that a few years ago, we also did Allentown Road from Cole out to, I think to Cable. These are difficult projects for everybody. So we ask for everybody's patience, but we'll try to get it done in a timely way, and then obviously at the end everybody will feel good about it.
You had a question, ma'am?
Yeah, you were saying that those roads would be closed, even the stores, the banks, the restaurants on those streets was gonna be closed down too?
Well, the stores and the question is, will we close the commercial venues out there? What we try to do anytime we have this kind of project is try to make at least some access to those stores, the banks, the car lots, the CUPE, whatever's out there. And good point, because we always try to tell people, go out of your way to patronize those businesses, because those businesses really go through some financial strain when we do projects like this. So thanks for pointing that out. Okay. Thank you very much.
Questions about anything else?
Oh, yes, sir.
The south side, most of the sidewalks,
Mm-hmm.
been like that. I'm 54 and they've been like that ever since I've been born. And seemed like the streets and everything might come out there and tar it, but when is that, the sidewalks and stuff, things like that will be taken care of? It's a lot of raggedy sidewalks.
Are you talking about the sidewalks throughout this whole neighborhood, or are you talking about the sidewalks on Kibbe Street?
No, I'm talking about out south.
Okay.
From, well, shoot, almost everywhere you go.
Okay, the question is, sidewalks that are deficient, how is the city going to address those and when? Here's how we do that. If we get a complaint about a sidewalk being a problem, we have our engineering staff go out, take a look at it, and if it's cracked and failing, or if there's over 1.5 inches offset between the two sections of concrete, that we determine is deficient. We send a note to the property owner telling the property owner that that sidewalk is deficient. It's the property owner's responsibility to maintain those sidewalks. We not only look at that one section that we got a report on, so if they come to my house, well, let's say they come to my neighbor's house and they look at theirs, we will look at every sidewalk on that side of the street in that block. So if I have a piece of deficient sidewalk but they called about my neighbor, I will get a notice too. At that point, I've got an opportunity to go out and find my own contractor. If I don't want to, or if I can't, then we go out several months later and take a look at it. If nothing's been done, we send a whole list to City Council at the end of the season saying all these properties need to have their sidewalks replaced. We send another official notice, and then after that notice and no response is done on those sidewalks, Council authorizes us to go out and find a contractor, have that work bid, completed, and at the end of it, then all those property owners are presented with a bill for the sidewalk that was replaced. They have the option of either paying it within 30 days, or if they don't want to pay it in 30 days, then the next action by council is that they assess it to the property. Now, the benefit of that is many people go ahead and just choose to have that done. If I have a sidewalk done in 2014, it's not going to appear on my taxes actually until 2016, and then the cost will be spread over the next 5 years. So if I'm pinched for cash, or some people think, well, I'm going to retire and I'm only going to be in this house for one more year. Sometimes those people make that decision just to have it assessed to their property rather than pay it out of pocket immediately. So there are ways that we can get these sidewalks replaced, and typically it starts with you all saying, hey, I walk to work this way and these sidewalks are dangerous to me or kids walking to school. So give us a call. Call us at the city number 228-5462, or my office is 221-5288, 221-5288. All right?
Hey, Howard, I'll piggyback on that. Steve, what I'm doing now, I look at any sidewalk that you've done, like a petition now, a certain area, that was like a River Street. River Street had all bricks. They got new sidewalk, new curves, because I petitioned that. Okay? And sometimes I'll go around, see anybody needs sidewalks, anything like that, look at a big area, I petition it. But we have sidewalks done over the years in certain areas. You can tell me a street that needs sidewalks, I can get them. I go to the houses and the law director set up a paper. If I get more than one, all I'm doing, like I got over 300 go around the house to door to see if they want to petition these sidewalks. And I get, I'll send them another letter. And some people didn't go over it, like the Root Street. Some people didn't like it. But when it got done, everybody had, wow, this is great. Because they put it on their taxes. But that's what I'll do. If I see a whole street of sidewalks need to be done, I'll petition the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I didn't see no really urgent, really bad ones, because we got the Union Street done, we got Kitty Corner Works done, we have some done out here. So over the years now.
Yes.
Over the years, a lot of new sidewalks be redone all over.
That's what Mr. Glenn says is correct. What can be done is if neighbors want to do all of the sidewalks in a neighborhood, council can pass a petition or an ordinance authorizing all of the sidewalks to be replaced, and then the property owners are assessed back that portion which lie in front of their properties.
And that takes the whole neighborhood to come together.
Well, it takes the majority of the neighborhoods. Yeah, majority of the neighbors.
About 8 or 9 said no, but majority of them said yes. But then when the curves went in the back, they had curves and they plow all that down. So everybody loved it when it got done. Oh wow, this is beautiful. So
Well, what about the welfare department, the human resource right there across the tracks? They building all these big old brand new buildings and everything, but right there's people that don't have cars, by the unemployment office, the welfare.
something over the bridge, like.
Right, and you're seeing people walking with their kids, and that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Who did you talk to about that?
You talking to the right man right there.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
We'll go out and take a look. You're
Yes,
talking
'cause-
about Metcalf,
Yes,
South
right
Dixie,
there,
right?
and there's so many people walking through, and they have to walk with their kids.
Some of them going down
Yeah.
four.
Right.
It's 4th Street going right across the tracks.
Consider your complaint filed, and we'll follow up.
I wanna see it happen.
Saul?
Thank you very much.
And they be in the street, and that, where the officer at, cause he gonna arrest them, they in the street.
Well, you said that area does not have no sidewalks.
No,
did have sidewalks.
Right, but they never had to
Okay.
work up there, unemployment office there, so now.
I'd like to introduce our Deputy Public Works Director who's in charge of the snow. He's not in charge of the snow.
We don't say the S word.
He's in charge of the street department, and specifically this season is juggling a lot of balls around leaves and other weather. So.
Good afternoon, or good evening, actually. But yeah, we originally were in the process of doing Saul Allen. No, S-A-U-L. That's okay. Yeah. But you know, our primary job right now has been, up until a few days ago, had been leaf pickup. We did get, right at this point, we're approximately about 70% done. But we did have to move some guys over to snow removal once we got the snow. That's our priority. But we are still continuing trying to get some of the leaves picked up. And right now it looks like we're going to try to be finished at least with the first round of pickup before Thanksgiving, probably by next Wednesday. Primarily right now, where we haven't picked up at is primarily in the 2nd Ward, 3rd Ward, and just small pieces of the 4th Ward. Is areas that we haven't really picked up yet. So we are still trying to get through it, but we're also in the same process trying to do some of the snow removal as well. Speaking of snow removal, just in case you haven't heard, the price of our salt has basically tripled. We've gone from $38 a ton to basically $105 a ton. Just because of the amount of snow that we got last year, and then there's a lot of cities trying to get salt. We normally team up with the state of Ohio to get salt, and this year, in order to actually really get salt this year, we actually had to get salt. We're getting salt through the state of Ohio, who is getting it out of Morocco, believe it or not. We have salt mines up under Lake Erie, but we will be getting our salt out of Morocco. But moving on, as far as some of the snow removal, a few things I always like to remind people is our primary goal is to clear the streets. We get quite a few complaints about, yes, you plowed. I went out, I cleared out my sidewalk, I cleared out my driveway, and you guys came along and plowed the street. And I'm going to tell you, I clear out my driveway, I clean out my sidewalks, and they plow mine right over. But I do, time-wise, they do slow down. None of my guys are allowed to go anything faster than the speed limit. If you find them, please feel free to call them in. None of them. They all have to follow every rule you have to follow as a driver, every last rule. And really, I've had guys who, honestly, I've had people who were honestly going 25 miles an hour, and you'll be surprised, depending on the snow, especially if there's a lot of ice, how far that snow will fly. So you would be surprised, because I've actually followed guys before, when they didn't know I was behind them. So, but yeah, I sit here and say, yeah, I'll plow, I'll shovel and they'll cover mine when they're up to. So it's actually the same, but we have to get the street done first, you know, make sure the streets are safe. Another big issue is, okay, when you're going to get to my neighborhood, my area, we always try to get primary streets first. You know, some of the streets that are heavily traveled out in this area would be like 4th Street, St. John's, Metcalf, Reese, some of those streets that are busier. And also what we try to do is also get areas that are covered by schools and medical facilities, which this being one. You know, we would come down and do 8th Street, make sure that's taken care of as well. So, you know, that's what we do. Another thing, as far as jobs and getting jobs with the city, we also go through the civil service process, and we're looking probably, I think, sometime in January to hire, or at least to have another test for CNM1, which is construction and maintenance, is what we hire. Basically, that's the first line of jobs through which I'm responsible for. Anyone who wants to take that test, when that test comes up, we do make it publicly known when that test is going to be. I think the cost is actually only $1 to actually take the test. And also, when I usually try to hire, me personally, I try to hire people who lives in the city first. And also, we also look to hire people who actually have CDLs, meaning commercial driver's license. We need commercial driver's license, usually on day one, when they first start, to actually drive some of our vehicles. But like I said, that test does come up in January, and I will be looking for for lights. But also, another thing I'm also responsible for potholes. I say this all the time. I drive the city quite a bit, but I do not catch every pothole. I tell people 419-221-5165, call it in. I have no problem with you calling it in. When we call them in, we take care of them. Most of the time we take care of them within a week. Feel free to call them in. We take care of them. I get them from I get them from council members. I get them from public. I do them myself. So I have guys out and about all day. They also write them down, and we take care of them. And usually, if we're not doing a lot of plowing, I usually have somebody, at least one crew, working on potholes every day. That's summer, winter, fall, what have you. So.
Sunday after church, I go around and put potholes.
So.
You got to though, because a lot of folks complain about too many cars out.
Well, and a lot of people complain, but we never know. I never know. Some people complain and we never know about them.
What's the process and how we do that?
221-5165. 419-221-5165.
And they'll take care quick too.
Will they? Will they
Yeah.
pick up backup for all the others happening?
Well, they don't have to go through your insurance.
Yes.
See, they can't pay no more money, we broke.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Say that number again, please.
419-221-5165.
They get on it right away too.
Go ahead.
I live on the corner of St. John's and Holmes Avenue,
Okay.
main thoroughfare.
Mm-hmm.
And I've complained for several years now about them throwing that snow back on my sidewalk. I'm a senior citizen, I can't afford to do all that much sidewalk, keep doing it over and over again. Every time I get it cleaned, I ain't lying, they come right back. Every time I go out there and I'm trying to keep my sidewalk clean, they throw it right back up there every time, especially when it's a whole lot of snow.
All I can tell you is we have to keep the streets clean. It becomes an issue. It becomes an issue, if we do not do the streets. I mean, we have accidents and whatever. That's our first priority. We got to take care of the streets. We got to make the streets drivable.
Even when they plow you in, you can't get out. Even when you plow in, you can't get out.
We got to make the streets drivable. That's the first priority. I mean, what good is it for you to plow or do your sidewalks, do your driveway, and you can't get your car out because we haven't plowed the street?
Once you do it, then you plow you back.
And usually,
We women, that's what I'm trying to do.
That's right.
I have a wife, and a lot of times I can't get to doing mine, and she does mine. So I understand that.
Very good, sir. Thank you very much.
And your name's
Rick Stolley.
I'm gonna tell them what they say. Thank you very much.
We've got our Parks Director, Rick Stolley, here as well. And I think we have a record number of basketball teams this year. Is that right, Rick?
Oh, yeah, Mayor. Well, thanks for having us out again tonight. It's always a pleasure to come out. This year's we are we'll talk a little bit about recreation first, and we've got during the winter months boys and girls basketball for 3rd through 6th graders, and this year looks like I told the mayor the other day we had 77 teams. And the gentleman who heads that up for us came in and said, "Hey, I lied to you. We don't have 77 teams." So, Mayor, I hope you didn't put that anywhere. We actually have 78 teams now. It's kind of crazy, but roughly average between 8 and 10 kids per team. It's been a terrific sign-up period. Again, it's all about the kids. And that is, it's a great way to get involved in a recreational league for both boys and girls. And, the things that they learn, it's so much about team play and all the commitment that comes with it, the competition that comes with it, but also what it means to, to get involved with team and be a part of a team. And those are terrific life skills that we often, just kind of forget that are happening as it goes through. So we're very, very pleased to be a big part of that part of the winter months. And we'll start that up we'll start that up December the 6th, and we will wrap up at the end of February with our tournament. So we're looking forward to, last year we had it calculated out between the kids playing, the coaches involved, and there was roughly about 1,000 people every Saturday involved in this activity. So that's good. That's good. It's a problem for us to schedule, but it's a good problem to have. So we're very blessed to be able to move that effort forward. We're transitioning in our parks. With going from our fall season into our winter season. Winter got here a little early for us, but we're still getting an awful lot done and getting things moved around. We're looking forward to playing with Mother Nature. We don't fight with her because we always lose if we do, but we look forward to getting out and having fun with some of this cold weather, and invite you to come on out and get involved with some of the walking activities through the parks, or sledding, or what have you. But get out and enjoy. Don't let Mother Nature keep you inside. Finally, I do want to touch real quickly on an effort that we're working on. And last night was kind of the kickoff, and we met. If some of you recall, this past summer. Actually, we started about a year ago working with AEP and trying to find a way to get some energy savings and energy dollar savings for the community. And that happened this summer with the help of so many people throughout the community. We surpassed our goal of 750. We went into 800. I think 808 was where the total they gave us yesterday. They gave us a couple of incentive. They incentivized us in a couple ways. Monetarily, we picked up $75,000 towards a new lighting system at Simmons Field over in the 6th Ward. And for those of you who know about Simmons Field and the locals that come in and kids that come in from all over the country to Lima and are a big part of the Lima recreational summer for folks who can't get up to Detroit or Cincinnati or over to Cleveland to watch a ball game. You come out and watch some of the next MLB, Major League Baseball players right here in Lima. The second part of it was that they were going to help us, AEP is going to help us with a sustainability roadmap that not only helps the community, but it sets us for a long-term process in saving energy and energy dollars. And last night, some members of the LACNIP Association, all the neighborhood associations, some of the folks here tonight were there last night. Understanding if we had folks come in from Chicago that sat with us at the LACNIP Resource Center for about an hour and a half, and we talked about what our strategies would be to save the community and get the community behind. And the neighborhood associations, I got to tell you, folks, jumped on this. And you guys that were there last night, we walked out and I went, wow, this is fantastic. And they took ownership in looking at some different topics that we as a Lima community want to get behind and get back into the neighborhood associations with. So they're going to take that ball and roll with it. The AEP folks and the consulting group out of Chicago is taking the information that we laid out last night, and they're going to put it into a document. We're going to bring it back to the neighborhood associations, get their feedback, and find ways to help Lima and help the Lima community save energy dollars and energy. And there's an awful lot of ways to do that. So when that comes around, we really invite you to get involved with this because we think it's a win-win for this community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Ray.
Oh, questions? Yes.
How do you get this information? Is it available on the internet or something like that, or do you have pamphlets or?
Which information?
What you just talked
Oh, the sustainability. That information will come out through the neighborhood associations, through your neighborhood association, once it's returned to us. We sat down and did some strategizing, and they're going to pull it all together, lay out some documents, and then we're going to do some feedback with the community through each of the neighborhood associations.
So would that have anything to do with like winterization?
Yes, there's energy savings at home. There, we had some things you could do through our process. You could go online and do a home energy audit, and it would tell you ways that you could save energy. Then they'd send you a little packet with some things in it, and I think I got some insulation stuff to put around my outlets. I got a couple of light bulbs. I got a night light. Jackie, what else did we get in that packet? Oh yeah, for the water conservation. Yeah, so yes. So as that information comes back to the neighborhood associations, there'll be website information that you'll be able to garner and get some of those ways to help save energy. One of the things we talked about was programmable lights. That was a great idea last night that we just put in one of our new restrooms over at Cook Park. And we're going to try and start looking at ways to put those in to help save energy as part of this strategy that we're looking at. So, okay? Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking about, what I talked to you, I'm thinking about putting together a senior football team.
Okay. I'm done playing if you're asking me, please. I would say King Park would be a great place because we're close enough to the medical center. You know, it's going to cut down on ambulance costs.
What she talking about,
It would make a lot of money. Yes, and you laugh at. Yes, they do.
volleyball and stuff like that.
And a lot of
They
people
have it in
come
city.
out.
They have it in bigger cities that they senior citizens come out and do
Yeah.
football. I mean,
I thought you were talking about actual pads and helmets. You're talking about flag football. Okay. Terrific. Yeah. Absolutely not. And you know, get off of the shuffleboard court and get out on the football field.
Skating,
well, she's saying we need more things for senior citizens to do.
Good.
You know,
Yeah.
they got the young guys like
We do.
25 years old out doing, playing football and all that.
Yeah, give us a caller. Let's talk about some of that. Let's look at some of those opportunities. Okay? Yeah. Terrific. Very good. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you all. And Mr. Cleaves, the city's finance director, is here as well.
The guy with all the money.
Just let me say, I apologize, I have to leave. This lady has a radio show at 6:30, I gotta get it there.
Okay.
And Mr. Glenn, thank you for coming also.
Before you leave, be something to I'll tell you about it. That's what I'll let you know.
Well, I'm glad to be here this evening. The city is in the middle of its budget exercise for 2015. We'll be submitting our budget to City Council in the middle of December, and we'll have hearings in January. And those are open public meetings. There'll be a series. There's usually 2 or 3. It's been a pretty smooth process the last few years, as the city is in pretty good shape financially, especially as compared to other jurisdictions in this, actually throughout the state and the region. Just to give you some idea as to the level of our budgets, I have a couple of charts just to show you the relative level of our water, sewer, general fund, what our spending and revenue trends have been for the past few years, and some comments on interest rates and how that's going to impact the total cost we're going to incur for the capital we need to spend for our sewer fixes. EPA has mandated that we do a lot of work in the sewer area because we have combined sewers where when we have a heavy storm, the storm water and the sewer water mixes and some of it gets into the river. Well, we have to stop doing that, and that's going to be a very expensive fix. Just to give you an idea of the relative size, this is a general fund budget. It's about $30 million. Water fund's about 16. Currently, the sewer fund's about 10. This is going to go up because of these EPA mandates. One other thing I want to point out is, I mentioned capital cost in the sewer and water fund. These top 2 colors, the yellow and the green, that's capital. You can see in the general fund it's very a small piece. It's about less than 5%. In water and sewer, it's about a 30% share. In the sewer, it's going to increase to 50 because of the mandates of the EPA. This is a sewer spending estimate from 2014 out to 2025. These top 2 bars, again, are capital. And you can see how that increases from about $4 million to about 8. It's going to double on the capital side. So that's why there are adjustments to your sewer fees. Again, that is all mandated spending by the EPA. This is just on the general fund side. This is in current dollars, showing what our spending and our revenues have been since about 2003, over the last decade. You can see that we have really squeezed down on our spending in the general fund side, and that is partially has been necessary because of funding cuts by the state of Ohio. We were getting about $4 million a year previously, but they have had various tax cuts and various things. The inheritance tax has went away. Local government funds have been cut way back. Personal property tax, that's machinery and equipment in major businesses. So you can see we went from a $4 million level down to about $1 million. So that's $3 million every year that we don't get now. So that required us to cut that spending. This is on the general fund side. I have a chart here on interest rates. I mentioned that I don't want to get too technical, but this is a 200-year history in the U.S. from 1800 to a current date.
Were you alive?
I barely remember those. But the average rate has been about 5% for the last 200 years. Only twice in our history have the rates been as low as they are now. They're down to about less than 3%. Now what this means is we've got to spend all that money in the sewer area, but we've been very aggressive to get that accomplished as soon as possible. I think we're the first city that has this form of an agreement with the EPA, which I'm sure the mayor will discuss. And we've also been aggressive on getting our borrowing done as soon as possible. Matter of fact, we're going to be borrowing this just about the same, within the same week that we get the official go-ahead on what we have to do. And since we've done that, we're going to take advantage of this dip in these interest rates, and that's going to save us probably at least $10 million in interest cost over the term of the current projects. And if this is sustained over the coming years, when we get additional phases of that work done, we will save additional monies.
Is it going to help the customers in the water bill rate?
A late charge of 20, isn't that supposed to be getting knocked down?
Yeah, them water bills is outrageous.
It is.
There was a question on water bills and penalties for late payments and shutoffs. The utilities a committee has reviewed that policy, and I believe there will be some significant changes as to what those fines will be when there's a late payment or a shutoff. Well, that was a very quick summary of our general fund and a little bit of information on the sewer activity. You're going to be hearing a lot about sewer over the next 20 or so years because those EPA mandates are really quite substantial, and it creates quite a burden on that sewer fund. And that's
that comes from Washington, though, don't you?
Yes, it is. That comes from, yeah. That's a mandated expenditure. Good, thank you.
Any questions for the finance director?
Steve got borrowed $1 million.
I second that.
Well, as I think Steve's point is, now's the time to borrow. So if you need $1 million, now's the time to go get it. Yeah. The last thing I'll comment on is that yesterday we did finally have a final agreement with Ohio EPA, with US EPA, on what's called the consent decree, which has to do with these mandates. We actually, to give you a little bit of history to it, we actually had an agreement with Ohio EPA in 1998. So 16 years ago, we had an agreement on what was called our long-term control plan. And under that plan, the city was intent on making certain improvements to the sewer system that would have cost about $60 million. And so we began to implement that, and we did implement the first very significant change under that plan, which was a set of screens that were installed at 6 locations on the Ottawa River on what are called combined sewer overflows, which are big pipes that when we get, as Steve mentioned, a storm, rain event that creates a surge of water in the sewer, then those are relief valves that allow that to go to the river. And it's untreated. So these screens on the river prevent literally hundreds of thousands of tons of material from going to the river now. And those were installed at a cost of about $6 million. And we did that in the late 90s, first part of the 2000s. And then a couple years later, I think it was 2003, we were informed by US EPA that they were canceling the agreement that we had with Ohio EPA. They preempted. They stepped in and said, no, you're not doing enough. So for the last 11 years, we have been negotiating with the agencies on what else is expected. And so, as I said, yesterday we finally all signed off on that plan. And that plan now has a cost not of $60 million, but $150 million. So it's a substantially more expensive set of improvements. And that includes, right now, we're spending about $30 million on improvements to the wastewater treatment plant, where we're adding capacity so that specifically right now it has a capacity of about 30 million gallons a day, and we're taking it to 70 million. Again, for treatment of stormwater that's all coming in at, when the rain comes, you got to have the ability to treat. Next summer we'll also be doing a sewer separation project in the north end. So those several projects will take us the next 3 years to finish out. The next big piece in the project actually involves Simmons Field. That's the reason the city now owns Simmons Field as opposed to the Lima City Schools. We bought it because when you look at the topography of the ground in the city, Simmons Field and the Baxter Street pump station, which is right behind Encore Theater. I don't know if you've ever seen the structure that sits there behind Encore on Collett, but that is the lowest point in the city. And so all of these sewers all collect water and drive it to that point. And from there, the Baxter Street pumps drive it out to the water treatment plant. So what we will be doing is building underneath Simmons Field a very large underground tank, so that when we do have these storm events, we will be able to not only drive as much water as we can to the wastewater plant, but also store some of that water so that we reduce the number of times that those relief valves open up and allow water to go to the river. Right now we have, on an average year, 25 to 45 rain events a year where those relief valves open. And we've now signed this agreement, which commits us to a plan to reduce that to no more than 5 per year. So in order to get that from 25 to 45 down to 5, we've got to build all this capacity in the system. Capacity for processing on a current basis and capacity for storage. Okay? And ultimately, the river improves. Ultimately, hopefully, we will see wildlife that's already returning to the river continue to prosper. It'll be safe for the community. It'll be safe for the animals and the other creatures that live in the water. But it's going to be costly. It's also not going to happen overnight. This is a 24-year plan. So the community is going to be working on this set of issues for the next 2+ decades in order to put these improvements in place. Well, we're beginning to see some of it now. 24 years. It's a long-term control plan. So, yes, ma'am. Right. Well, the question is what happens if the mandates change? And that's a real issue because we have lots of things can happen. And we just saw something happen this past summer which could have a significant impact on us, which is that Toledo had to shut down its water treatment plant because of the algae bloom that happened in Lake Erie. You know, we all saw that aerial photograph of what happened in Lake Erie. And it's very possible, we've been told that if they impose on us, and we're the Ottawa, you have to understand, the Ottawa River, which goes through here, connects to the Auglaize, which connects to the Maumee, which goes to Lake Erie. So we're part of that drainage. And they could very conceivably impose on us a set of regulations that have to do with nitrogen and phosphorus that comes off of streams and off our streets and out of our systems, okay? And if they do that, the estimate that we have right now is that's another $50 million. So that could affect how fast we do other parts of the plan. So if that becomes the necessity that suddenly they say must be done, then certain other parts of the plan will be deferred to later. So we have language in the agreement that allow us to set priorities, reset those priorities, change with the regulations, change with the circumstance, and potentially also change with the population characteristics of our community as well. So we believe we've negotiated an agreement that allows us, not only commits us to doing very serious things, substantial things, but also allows us to manage that over time. Okay. Well, we appreciate being here. We appreciate being invited, and this is the kind of event I think that is generally appreciated by our neighborhood associations, and we appreciate staying in touch and sharing information. So we hope you all have a great Thanksgiving and Christmas